Good morning. Let's get started. All right, we have some big news here from Intel. It's pretty huge. Some might even say it's huge. So I have a swing on this. Off this technical setup. And now we were up huge. Trump has said that the CEO of Intel must resign. He's highly conflicted. He has ties to China. Pull this up here. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, I do think this is a huge opportunity to buy Intel because Trump is trying to help Intel, I think, overall, and people are panicking because of the CEO comment. We have Trump saying the CEO of Intel is highly conflicted and must resign immediately. There's no other solution to this problem. Thank you for your attention to this problem. Okay. TSM considers operating Intel factories after Trump request. So Trump is trying to get TSMC involved. Now, I saw another comment earlier that said Trump said, I need to double check this, but Trump said basically TSMC needs to help out Intel by acquiring 49% of the company. And also, if they did that, that would reduce their tariffs to 0 on all chips. I need to double check that claim, but I did read that somewhere. Apple news, of course. Apple coming to the White House and giving a 24 karat gold little thing. It's just a little plaque thing. I don't know, who cares? Anything else here? Let's see. I know there's more info on this. But obviously, this is creating crazy volatility with Intel, and I think it's just a major opportunity to buy the dip before Intel starts pushing back into the 30s and never comes back down again. That would be my opinion. Just going purely off what Trump said, Intel would pay a tariff on 30% that they outsource to Taiwan because Intel hasn't made commitments to build more in the US since Trump came into office. NVIDIA would not pay a tariff as they promised to build 500 billion in the next 3 years. Even though 90% of their stuff is outsourced. So pretty fascinating. And it seems like Intel can't go lower than around the 18s so far. That's where it's been hanging out. It's been sort of in a channel between 18 and low 20s for several months now. So mainly this drop is because Trump's calling for the resignation of the CEO. Fascinating stuff. I love the action. I kind of just wish I sold yesterday and then rebought this morning, but what do you do? It's a swing trade idea, so we're going to hold on for the ride. I am in from 1950. Love to see the volatility. This guy says, Trump nuking Intel to push the evaluation down so the government can privatize it cheaper, at a cheaper price. That's kind of funny. Anyways, super fascinating news. Great action on Intel. There you go. You can see that channel it's been in for about a year now. So ideally, buying near the bottom of the channel should be good in theory. And it's kind of near the bottom of the channel. And now Trump's on it, so anything can happen. Trump could come out tomorrow and say anything, and then this will go up to $30, and then it's just off. Kind of like MP, when we have stuff happening like this. Look what happened to MP. Okay, this is the rare earth company in California. All right, I was trying to buy this in this dip right here, but then right before I bought it, that news came out, and then it never came back down. So this is the kind of stuff that can happen. We have the pumper in chief, so we have to be careful about missing plays. So it's tricky because you don't want to buy in too soon and then get destroyed on some kind of pullback. But also can't be too passive and not aggressive enough and then miss stuff like this. 100% move in a few days. So that's the kind of stuff we are looking at. Morning, Scotty. We're just talking about Intel. So Intel has news. Trump is on top of it, saying that the CEO should be fired because he's got ties to China. And so interesting stuff. I did have a long on it. I do have a long still from 1950 from this trend break. So hopefully that holds up. I'm going to try to ride it out and see what happens. Hopefully today isn't just turning into a massive red day, but hey, maybe I'll just add more lower if it is. Yeah, as we saw with Apple, I was trying to buy Apple too, but we had the trend breakdown. But then now we had this news about them going to the White House, and it's up huge on that. So the pumper in chief is on it. A little bit annoying for me because I was long from 211, 210s. Back in this flag, and then I didn't re-enter, so I broke even on the trade and then didn't get back in. This stuff happens so fast, you got to be really on top of it, especially with the news that can come out any minute. of course, if you simply don't pay attention to the stock, and you get in pretty much anywhere and then risk 195, then you're just in. I hate it when that happens. Happens often with swings. Yeah, it's kind of a pain, but it goes both ways too. So Unity did end up failing. Now this is more like what I thought would happen with Unity on the earnings. It had a crazy move. And this was being pumped on Twitter too, so I don't know how big of an impact that was. Big pumper was on top of it, so I don't really know how big of an impact that was, but it did end up fading. This is what I thought would happen on the earnings. I was just surprised to see it come back up so much first. That was a pretty insane move on the Intel or Unity earnings. It was a really nice technical setup back over here. So that was the play, and this is the best setup in the market. So this is the kind of stuff I'm trying to go after. Go for these swings for about a month or so, maybe 2-3 weeks. Usually no longer than 2 months. But 50% move on that breakout. And then, of course, it tried to set up again over here, but earnings was coming up. And then it's going to get choppy into earnings. Earnings is always a gamble. So I'm not looking to hold through earnings typically unless I'm up massively on the position and I really want to hold the stock anyways, which Unity is not really one of those kind of stocks for me, but it is a good one on the plays, the setups like this. So now I would expect Unity to continue fading. It's probably just a good short for today. And PayPal's sort of a good example of what I think will happen here, because PayPal had earnings back over here, and then crazy red day on the earnings, and then the following days were all fades. So that is what I think is going to happen with Unity. Of course, PayPal also had a really nice run up into the earnings. The earnings was the top, and it sold off into earnings massively, as expected, because if stocks run up into earnings, usually they drop on earnings. If they go down into earnings, usually they go up on earnings. It's usually opposite day, but super clean fade the following days here on PayPal. So that's kind of what I think Unity will do too. I don't see why not. So I'll be looking out for maybe a day trade on Unity. Keep an eye on it. I like the idea. So here are the swings I'm in currently. We have Nike. All right. Beautiful. setup. Same thing we did last time. Best setup in the market. So we're in Nike on this trend break right here. It's working out really good so far. Same exact setup we had over here. Same exact trade. Bought the trend break, sold it into the breakout. Bought the trend break. Guess where I'm going to sell it? Guess where I'm going to sell it? If it works. PayPal. I'm in. Guess where I'm in at? I'm in on the trend break. So best setup in the market. That one's working out pretty good. This target is a little different. A little different target. Check this out. Best case scenario, the exit for PayPal will be, pop to the daily. We know gaps like to be filled. So when this gap gets filled, that's where I'm selling. So looking for around 77, 78 target for that swing. Tilray, kind of a sketchy one. But I have high hopes for this one. This one's a little more involved, but basically the same setup. Look at that trend break. We entered on the trend break. And this is the setup. So this is what I want to see happen. Now, if I go back over here, obviously the stock sucks overall, but there's always weed hype coming. And for whatever reason, towards the end of the year, it likes to run sometimes. So you can see back here, 2023, off of this ridiculous pullback, just grinding down forever. And then it got some momentum. Okay, so it had basically two legs up right here. And then it pulled back under this moving average. And it held the dip. So now I guess I could do this. Okay, put my line on. Buy the trend break. And then sell into the breakout. Always sell the breakout. That's the whole play. So same thing over here. Look at that. We had two moves up, two legs up. Okay. Pull back below the moving average. Trend break. Now hopefully it breaks out. Hopefully it goes back up to the 90s. So I'm simply risking the dip right over here. And I want to sell it into the breakout. That's it. Hopefully that happens. It is the best setup in the market, after all. But if it doesn't go, we'll just cut it. So, UNH. I am long UNH on the best setup in the market. I was a little bit late to the party on this one. I should have been in right here, 240. But I ended up getting it on a dip because it kind of got back on my radar whenever this move happened. So I bought the dip right here. So I've got about 245.50 average. So obviously UNH has some crazy upside potential, absolutely insane potential. When the stock is down like this, especially a massive company that's not going bankrupt, that's a pretty nice discount. So hopefully this keeps going. Hopefully it holds. I hope the low is in. It took out the low from this initial dip from 515. And hopefully that's all the downside it has in it. Again, we stick to the risk. It is what it is. We have to try it. But if it holds up, then we're going to be in pretty good shape for a rebound. I mean, we have gaps to fill. Look at this. We need to fill this gap right here to 375. We got to fill this one to 581. The gaps will be filled as long as the company doesn't go under, which is unlikely. It's not like Bear Stearns, right? I just want to see Kramer tell everyone to not buy this stock. That would be the bottom indicator. All right, here's the bell, guys. Good luck. We're going to be very focused on these swing trades. Yeah, a key sign of the bottom is when you got idiots going on TV and saying why they're going to sell the stock, or just, talking bad about the stock. That is always a sign of the bottom. We had Tim Walz talking about Tesla. He bottom ticked the dip on Tesla when he did that. He went on stage and said, "Hey, we hope Tesla goes lower, keep going down," whatever he said. And that was literally the bottom of Tesla. So it almost seems coordinated, who knows, but it's just funny because whenever people that don't trade much start talking about a stock like that, then it's in the media, it's in the news, too many people are talking about it, and then that usually signals some kind of reversal. It's like your barber. If your barber starts talking about a stock, then it's time to get out of it. I do have a short on DXR. Tried a couple other ones. You don't have Barbary. Yes, I do. Kinda. Yeah, I remember people saying that with GameStop when GameStop was running like crazy. Pretty much when it was at the top, that's when everyone starts talking about it and they're wanting to jump in on the hype. But that's the top, so not good. Tesla, super impressive hold. Literally just held the wedge. That's all it did. It tested the wedge and it held the wedge. Pretty incredible. They say technical analysis doesn't work. I disagree. It also had the best setup in the market as well. All right, DXR got me back to break even. On the short selling, that is. I really don't want to teach people how to short sell. It's too dangerous. Really have to know what you're doing. All right. Obviously, IMG is looking super tasty for a short. YHC already failed. Nice squeeze on IMG. That's what I like to see. I want to see it squeeze first. You are short Roku. Let me take a look at that. Has some potential, I think. It's in a wedge right here. Sort of trying to fail the wedge, it looks like. Let's see, you got 84.66. See, it's kind of like at the bottom of this wedge here. If I look at it on the 10-minute here, it's kind of pulled back to the bottom of the wedge. So is it going to break down or not? We don't really know. It could just be tightening up in this wedge. Or it could break. It could break. But it hasn't broken yet. DXR is going to go lower. Look at that nonsense. I got out at 9:63. Somehow I bottom ticked this candle. Nice squeeze on IMG. Free borrows on IMG. It's just begging for shorts to jump in it. All right, let me check up on Intel. Yeah, nice. Intel's holding. Yeah, it could fade, but it's bouncing back pretty nice. That was a nice panic dip buy opportunity on the news. Just people panic selling. Probably Algos too. You know, there's a feed watching whatever Trump says. Trump is in the Algos. So Tesla, Apple had a massive day yesterday. I'm wondering if they're going to have a big red day today, because usually you get a big red day following a big green day on the big caps. Also, Apple has a gap to fill to the downside, so wouldn't be surprised if it at least pulls back to the 215 area. Let me not forget about Unity. Unity's having a nice bounce, so I want to see that bounce kind of top out somewhere, and then maybe I'll go for a short. Ooh, Run is running. This was a solar stock. Sunrun. Looks like it's having a breakout on earnings. Pretty big breakout. That's an EP setup. Let me go ahead and put that one on watch. Yeah, big potential trade coming on run. I don't enter on day one though, so we want the D-Dog setup, the D-Dog treatment. We'll be watching for the best setup in the market. It needs to set up though. No rush. BTOG having a backside bounce short, or backside bounce. Maybe going to be a short. I like these when they're gap up shorts. So if it can gap up tomorrow, that would be A plus. Duolingo earnings. Another one. Duolingo. Yep. All right, IMG short looking good. Got a long here, interesting one. It's on earnings. Starting to get some action on this move. The flag is holding up so far. Has a chance. Al likes it. Let's check in on Unity. Unity is sort of flagging. All right, IMG is testing a little bit here. It's trying to see if it can squeeze again. I doubt it can. It's a super nice pre-market high clear out. Pretty clean. So high a day should be in. It's 10 o'clock, so yeah, it needs to start fading, but yeah, we'll see if it holds up. Odds are it's going to close red on the day, 70% of the time. Unity looking weak. Gonna open a short here on Unity. Yeah, what I don't like about this Unity trade is it's kind of holding the pre-market levels. But we'll see. We'll give it a chance to fade. I do think this was pumped pretty hard, so I don't really know how much of an impact that has, but I don't know. You had a pretty big pumper on top of it, just pumping it up for weeks. See you, Scotty. Have a good one. So Everyone's going to be dumping this if they haven't already. IMG coming back up a little bit. Don't like it. I don't like that. Covered Roku 100. Sick. Very nice. Beautiful trade. All right, IMG is trying to squeeze. Gonna let that do whatever it wants to do, I guess. If it squeezes, it squeezes. Probably my last try on that one. Still really good odds of failing. Just don't like how it's trying to hold up too well, but you never know. Yeah, Roku. All right, so I see here on the 5-minute, clean trend break. So it pulled back, tested the trend line, and then on the second try it came through. And it looks clean on the 5-minute here. Let me go to the bigger 5-minute chart here. So Apple is showing a little weakness, obviously. It wants to fill the gap to 215. Tesla's kind of flagging in the morning here. I would expect to pull back on that as well today. So SPY sold off. SPY sold off. Let's see here. Which helped. 84.66 to 83.23. Several ads lowering risk. Sweet. I love this trend break here. This is the nice trend break setup. Maybe a little tricky because it pulled back to the trend line and then it did a bear flag and it rolled over and broke down. Nice trade. Caught the trend break. Okay, IMG looking much better now. Had bigger break the other day also. Yes, did. Yeah, let me pull that up too. Take a look at that. Yeah, I see a pretty mega trend line right here. Let me see. Let me make this one darker too. Something like that. Make it red. So huge trend break right there into this sort of bigger bear flag pattern. And then that bear flag just broke down. Oh, CoreWeave is breaking trend right now. Look at that. Little choppy around the trend line this morning, eventually pushing through. It's still kind of deciding. I think it's probably going to pull back and make a higher low, I imagine. Maybe we get a nice little intraday trend break to buy on that. I'll have to keep an eye on that one. It's pretty significant. Want to see it pull back, hold somewhere over here. IMG looking better for the short now, much better. Just gonna cut Unity. All right, I gotta get going. Gonna call it there. Pretty decent moves today. We still have IMG, so swings all looking kind of okay. They're hanging out. Nothing too crazy going on there, except Intel, which we're gonna ride that one out. See how it goes. But all right, guys, good luck. We'll be back tomorrow.